Okay, today we're going to take a look at the Roman Republic as it was early on in ancient Rome. The chart here represents the different parts of the Roman Republic and some of the evolution of the Republic throughout the time. At the top, we have the dictator. Now, in many cases, we think of dictators as mean, oppressive rulers, but that actually wasn't the case in the Roman Republic. The dictators here were brought in during certain times, specifically emergencies. And the number one emergency that most of these dictators were brought in was a time of war. So they served as a dictator during these emergencies, and when the emergency was done or taken care of, it was understood that they would step down and move back into their public life or private life. The best example they give is the dictator Cincinnatus, who was a farmer who was asked to step into the role of dictator during a small military engagement, handled the engagement, stepped back down to his farm. And that was the intent of that post, was only to be there in times of war or other emergencies, with the understanding that one person making the decision is much more effective, much more efficient, and quicker than an entire group of governmental officials or a large group of people. So during normal times and everyday time, the consuls, which is the group that is typically running the government, these are individuals that are patricians. There are two of them, and they served a term of 1 year. And the reason behind that is they thought if they served 1 year terms, they were less likely to be corrupt, and it would constantly keep the government and the people running the government fresh, positive, good ideas, things like that. Now, the next group is kind of off to the side, and these are the praetors, and these are our judges. This group of people took care of interpreting the law. They helped organize public festivals, handled the tax records, and all things like that. But they were not in the typical chain of command in the government. And down at the bottom, we have two boxes, and these are populations or the general public. And we have plebeians and patricians. The patricians were our land-owning aristocrats, or the nobles. They had more say in government. They essentially ran the show. And then you had the plebeians, which were the labor force of the Roman Republic. These were your farmers, your shopkeepers, your artisans. They were the ones doing most of the work. Now, the patricians have a group ahead of them, a governing body called the Senate. And there are 300 members in this Senate. And these guys are the lawmakers. They suggest laws up to the consuls. They propose new laws. They vote on laws and debate, important issues, approve building programs. They really help run the government with the consuls and inform their decisions. Well, initially, when we have this setup of the consuls and the Senate, the plebeians did not have a say. They were completely cut off from the government. And the thing about it is the plebeians were actually the largest population group within Rome. So they took offense to the fact that they were not involved in this decision-making process or the government at all. So they eventually go on strike, refuse to serve in the army, refuse to produce goods, forcing the patricians and the upper class to allow them to have a say in the government. And when this happens, we have the creation of the Council of the Plebs. And when they have this council, now they have an informed voice within the government. Over time, we do see the plebeians actually being allowed to serve as consuls. We have a breakdown of some of the social things between the patricians and plebeians and being allowed to marry, because they were not initially allowed to. And under this system, we have everybody having a say in the government. All of the citizens, that is. Citizens is still something that's defined, male, landowning, things like that. But the intent was to have as many people involved in the decision-making process as possible to make it more fair and more equal across all of Rome.